The family says they have only received rare phone calls from Raif since he's been imprisoned. Ensaf runs a campaign for her husband's release and is trying to keep her children's spirits up.
مش الرسم. يلا أبغى أسمع مريم مش حتعمل لما بابا يجي.
حركض حق بابا. حعملكم كمان انتوا الاثنين وحاورجي البيت. بعدين حنروح السينما. بعدين حناكل في المستور شيء. بعدين حتمغي انتي وبابا كمان.
أوه.
بس الحين ما هو قاعد يدق يعني.
والله. صح إني أنا برا السجن بس كأني.
Although he's in jail, it's as if we're all serving the sentence.
لما يكون أغلى شيء.
The most precious thing in our life is not with us. It's been 4 years since the children have seen their father. It's very difficult. It's so hard, but we have to carry on.
Ensaf says she's counting on Raif's case being reviewed by the Saudi courts.
Honestly, I am always hopeful. This Christmas, I hope he'll be with us, but I just don't know. I've never received any good news from Saudi Arabia.
In January 2015, 2 weeks after Raif Badawi was lashed in public, the Saudi ruler, King Abdullah, died. His half-brother, 79-year-old Salman, came to the throne. Salman was the 6th son of Saudi Arabia's founder, Ibn Saud, to become king. The world was watching to see if he would continue the reforms begun in the wake of the Arab Spring.
أيها المواطنون والمواطنات، لقد وضعت نصب عيني مواصلة العمل على الأسس الثابتة التي قامت عليها هذه البلاد المباركة منذ توحيدها وتمسكا بالشريعة الإسلامية الغراء.
King Salman is probably the last of the sons of Al Saud to be king. So you've got that generational succession happening at a time when there are unprecedented challenges both internally and externally. One of the dilemmas in Saudi Arabia is you have lots of competing views. There's a kind of liberal elite who want the right conditions for business. There's a conservative Islamic tendency who doesn't want as much engagement with the West as Saudi has. There are women who want more rights. There are conservative women who don't. So it's part of a very complex situation in Saudi Arabia. But it's not standing still. Saudi Arabia isn't standing still. The argument is about the pace of change.
Before he died, King Salman's brother had promised that women would be able to vote and stand in local elections. The new king had to decide whether to follow through on this promise and ease up on the many restrictions women face in their everyday life. Women are banned from driving and are often prevented from traveling and going to the doctors without a male guardian. Activists have been sharing videos like this of public violence against women to raise awareness about the issue. Saudi officials have said they don't condone such violence and take these incidents seriously.
Violence is a symptom of the position of women in a society because it reflects how people view the roles of women. This is a tribal society and it's been kept this way. The philosophy of the government is to keep the control of the man or the power of the father, basically. So violence is used as a disciplinary way or a controlling way.
There have been recent legal advances in protecting the rights of women, but violence still occurs. In this video, after being whipped in public, the women turn on their attackers. increasingly, women are fighting back. Rujane Hathlul is one of Saudi Arabia's most prominent women activists. She has been campaigning to overturn the ban against women driving. In late 2014, she uploaded a video of herself trying to drive into Saudi Arabia from the neighboring United Arab Emirates.
أهلين معكم لجين الهذلول. أنا الآن في طريق الغويفات بحاول أقطع الحدود السعودية من هناك ونشوف وش يصير.
Moments after this was filmed, Lujane was arrested. Her case was referred to a terrorism court, and she was imprisoned for 73 days without trial before being released. She spent months banned from traveling outside Saudi Arabia.
I've been threatened since the beginning. My car was broken. I almost got beaten up just because of the campaign. People wrote me letters on Facebook and sent me all sorts of weapon pictures, saying that if I continue, I would be murdered or my family harmed.
Lujane's campaign sparked a debate inside Saudi Arabia. To some women, she became a hero. To the more conservative elements, a hate figure.
I try to represent their rights. Some of them don't believe that it's their own rights. They refuse it, they reject it. But I believe that they're imprisoned in their own old raising, their old mindset, or they just fear freedom.
There is a grassroots movement of women's activists who are trying to pressure the regime. Yasser's network films one of their meetings. They were discussing King Salman's decision to deliver on his predecessor's promise. Women would now be allowed to take part in upcoming local elections.
واللي كانت من بينها المطالبة بالمشاركة في الانتخابات البلدية.
Lujane says she was forced to sign a pledge saying she would no longer publicly campaign when she was released from prison. But here, she's filming herself registering as a candidate in the elections.
It's a chance for women to feel the power they can have in making some changes. I know there are minor changes, but it's good to learn about democracy and voting and all this, to be represented next to men equally, to give them that push forward that you actually count. Act, you have the chance to act now, do it.
As a high-profile activist, entering the election brings added risks for Lujane.
My family supports me. They support the ideas. They support everything, pretty much everything. But the jail experience was very harsh on them. I try to respect that. But also I try to respect the fact that I need, and we need actually, to keep on asking and acting and push the envelope to actually make some changes. It's scary. I'm not saying it's not scary, but I'm continuing. I am not stopping. I'm stepping, shaking while stepping, yes, but I'm not giving up.
Three years after the Saudi blogger Raif Badawi was imprisoned for insulting Islam, Insaf, his wife, is in Strasbourg, France, to collect a human rights award from the European Parliament on his behalf. But she's had bad news from Saudi Arabia on Raif's case.
Raif has been moved to another prison,
a prison for people who have been given a final sentence and they have to serve out the full sentence in that prison. It was very bad news because I'm worried about Rafe's health.
She's been told Rafe has begun a hunger strike.
I told the kids that he was moved to a new prison, but I couldn't face telling them about the hunger strike. Poor things. My children are tired from all the bad news. They've lost their childhood because of what they've been through. But at least I have the kids. They give me strength to carry on. But Rafe has no one. He's been taken away from his children. The sentence against him is so cruel and unjust.
تطالب المجتمعات حول العالم والمنظمات الحقوقية الأنظمة العربية بالمزيد من الإصلاحات في مجال. لقد تنبأ هنا رائف قبل سجنه بأن رجال الدين يضيقون على المفكرين لا لشيء إلا لأنهم سيسحبون البساط من تحت أرجل رجال الدين الذين يقتاتون على الكذب والدجل على عامة الناس. على إتاحة هذه الفرصة وهذا الشرف وأختم بقول رائف: من يريد لنا الموت نريد له الحياة، ومن يريد لنا الجهل نريد له العقلانية.
Saudi officials would not answer questions or agree to an interview. They have publicly said that the Saudi courts are independent and that the Constitution protects human rights. But activists are growing increasingly impatient with the new king.
When Salman came to the throne, everyone thought he was going to be a force for change. But what have we seen? More executions, more people being locked up for posting things online, and more fear.
King Salman now faces pressure not just from activists at home, but economic forces that threaten Saudi stability. The crash in the price of oil has caused the monarchy to cut subsidies and public spending.
When the Arab Spring started, King Abdullah spent $133 billion in Saudi Arabia to buy off dissent, giving free mortgages, free housing in order to silence the opposition. They don't have that type of money to silence the opposition anymore.
On top of the oil crash, Saudi Arabia has become involved in unprecedented and costly foreign wars in Syria and Yemen. The International Monetary Fund has said that at this rate, the Saudis will have spent all their financial reserves within 5 years.
Most of the forecasting of our situation have emphasized that we will go bankrupt in a few years. And this is really serious. Faced with the removal of the subsidies, taxation, all those issues would create a stress on people, that they themselves would rise to the challenge and really demand a better governance. So if the ruling family does not act on a reasonable way, I don't know what might happen next.
Saudi Arabia is facing some of the biggest challenges it's ever faced. I mean, some of these threats and some of these challenges have been around for some time. What is true today is that they're all coming at once. The oil price is low, youth unemployment, regional instability. You've got a resurgent Iran, you've got conflicts in Syria, Yemen. You could almost argue the possibility of a perfect storm.
In January 2016, King Salman asserted his authority.
47 people in Saudi Arabia have been executed.
The biggest mass execution. The largest mass execution in 3.5 decades.
He ordered the execution of 47 men. Many were convicted al-Qaeda terrorists, but among them was the Shia cleric Sheikh Al-Nimr.
instigating massive anti-government protests.
On the 2nd of January 2016, at 10:30 a.m., we heard it on Saudi TV.
Saudi Arabia executed a prominent Shiite cleric.
The charismatic religious leader was known by his followers as a peaceful reformist.
We were shocked. The whole Saudi community was shocked. Even the rest of the world. It's known that the king himself sanctioned this personally.
Saudi Arabia's execution of Nimr al-Nimr has inflamed a centuries-old conflict between...
The executions caused alarm about the consequences for the region.
Crisis unfold in the Middle East.
The ripple effect of tensions between Iran and Saudi Arabia.
The US says it's worried the execution of Nimr al-Nimr will exacerbate religious tensions.
Iran used their state-run news to condemn Nimr's death.
From a Saudi point of view, they saw him as someone who incited violence.
They are saving the whole world from terrorism.
I think it's probably fair to say that Sheikh Nimr al-Nimr was not a terrorist, but he had advocated what the Saudis would regard as extreme positions.
Protests are spreading around the globe.
I think the Saudis took the view that they could live with any reaction from Iran.
News of the cleric's death sparked a wave of protests around the region.
Iran saw it as a provocation and an overtly hostile act toward Shia Muslims.
In neighboring Bahrain, protests turned violent as police...
For Saudi dissidents, it was a sign that the regime would continue its suppression of opposition.
The European Union warned Nimr's death could have dangerous consequences.
The execution of Sheikh Nimr, this is going to change things in terms of how people perceive the government and perceive politics.
Saudi officials defended them as an objective and legal way to ensure justice.
The fact that the state cannot tolerate peaceful opposition, I think this execution made Sheikh Nimr al-Nimr into an icon, into a martyr.
This new footage, smuggled out by the activists' network, shows how the Sheikh's execution sparked the first major protests in the east of Saudi Arabia since the Arab Spring. The Sheikh's son told us that his father's execution will only incite more opposition to the regime.
It was a big shock for me. Basically, I couldn't believe that the Saudi government would do that, even though he knew, and he said that many times. I remember one time he said that our blood is a cheap price for our values. He basically said that if they want to kill us, let them kill us. If they want to put us in prison, let them put us in prison. But we won't be silenced. By executing my father, they have accelerated the change that would come to this country.
Sheikh Nimr's nephew, Ali, was spared, but he remains on death row.
I feel that the sword is against his neck. They say there will be repercussions. They expect that there will be chaos in the streets. So what do you think will happen, God forbid, if they execute him? The situation might become something bigger than just protests. We do not want that to happen.
The execution of Sheikh Nimr is a signal that the Saudis were sending not to the Shia only, but to all dissidents, secular and Islamic. They will not tolerate any dissent because they are viscerally opposed to sharing power.
The executions have had an effect on Yasser and his fellow activists. After 6 months, he says that it is too dangerous to keep filming for us.
I can't continue. All my friends have been arrested, and if they find my camera, they'll say I'm a terrorist. People aren't happy at all. We now know the true face of the king.
As for Loujain Hathlul, although 21 women were elected in 2015. She says she was barred from participating in the elections.
Definitely, I'm a troublemaker for them. That's why they don't really want me. Or actually, I think it's the case of me being a very vocal person about human rights or women's rights.
Unfortunately, the religious establishment is not really aligned with any of the economic, social, or best interests of the 30 million people living in Saudi Arabia. Their needs and best interests and voices should be heard. And it will continue to be an issue for the people and for the political system until it's resolved. It's not going to go away because people are being imprisoned or even executed.
Last month, Saudi security forces returned to the Shia city of Qatif in pursuit of a terror suspect. Armed clashes resumed. According to residents, 2 people were killed and 26 injured. Despite the risks, Yasser and the underground network are continuing to try to expose what's going on in Saudi Arabia. Raif Badawi has now ended his hunger strike, but he remains in prison, serving his 10-year sentence. Ensaf says she hasn't heard from him since the mass execution.
The kids have been asking why we haven't heard anything. I have no answer. I tell them I don't know, because I really don't know. Of course, I hear the news from Saudi all the time, but I shut it out so that my head doesn't get mixed up. I convince myself everything else that happens is separate from Raif's case.
Next time on Frontline, Vladimir Putin has stirred Russian nationalism, but he's also been called a modern-day czar.
And instead of seeing Russia as a democracy in the process of failing, we need to see it as an authoritarian system in the process of succeeding.
As he pushes the limits of his power, Frontline investigates.
If you put these people in the United States and check what they've done, they're criminals.
Putin's way.
Go to pbs.org/frontline for more on Saudi Arabia's royal family and the challenges they face.
And one of the dilemmas in Saudi Arabia is you have lots of competing views.
Learn more about the history of U.S. ties to the kingdom. Read an interview with producer James Jones about the making of this film. Then connect to the Frontline community on Facebook and Twitter. Visit us on YouTube for even more original Frontline reporting. Then sign up for our newsletter at pbs.org/frontline. For more on this and other Frontline programs, visit our website at pbs.org/frontline. Frontline's Saudi Arabia Uncovered is available on DVD. To order, visit shoppbs.org or call 1-800-PLAY-PBS. Frontline is also available for download on iTunes.